In our world, religious persecution is nothing new. We know of Christians in other countries who are oppressed. Sometimes that oppression takes the form of outright physical persecution or imprisonment, killing, destruction of churches. In other countries, religious persecution may take a more subtle form, a form of coercion or manipulation. The church in China is an example of this. The government some time ago established what's called the Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association. That church is approved by China. It has bishops who are chosen by the government, bishops who will not interfere, promise not to interfere in Chinese politics. And because it is a government-sanctioned church, its priests and bishops are closely watched to make sure they don't say anything that is contrary or critical to the communist ideology. There is another church in China, that's the Catholic Church, united with the Holy Father. It mostly operates underground since it's the subject of oppression by the government. And many times, its priests, bishops, and even some cardinals have been imprisoned for expressing their loyalty to the Pope and to the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. In the first reading, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar is manipulating these three young Israelites. He's manipulating them prior to this gospel reading, the first reading, with many things. He'll bless them with many things. He'll make them rich. He will do whatever he can do to satisfy them if they worship the Babylonian gods. These young Israelites were enslaved by the Babylonians like everybody else, but they were recruited to be administrators, kind of a government-level workers, even though they were slaves. But when the king heard that they refused to worship the gods of Babylon, he threatened them with death. And they answered him by saying this, "O God, know that we will not serve, O king." They say, "O king, know that we will not serve your God or worship the golden statue that you set up. Even if they said our God does not free us and save us, we will still not worship false gods." So Nebuchadnezzar has the three young men thrown into the furnace, as we heard, but later on he comes back to see what's happening, and to his astonishment he sees the three men walking around freely, and a fourth person there who he says looks like the Son of God. Maybe it's an angel. Maybe it's the Lord himself in the midst of the flames, protecting those three young men. And in the end, Nebuchadnezzar honors the God of these three young men and sings his praises. So this story was meant to encourage the Israelites at a time when they were in exile. They were being persecuted for their faith. And this is one story to help them stand firm in their faith. And I think it's a relevant message for us today. You know, in our day and age, in our society, even there are those who oppose the gospel. And they will seek to manipulate it for their own purposes. They may not directly attack the church or eradicate the church or its teachings, but they try in indirect ways of suppressing the gospel. They use the gospel for their own purposes, and they will manipulate our faith by appealing to economic, social, or political reasoning. We should be firm, as were the three men of Nebuchadnezzar's, not to give in to a softer version of the gospel for the sake of economic gain or political appeasement. We have to resist efforts to appeal to our common sense, as they say, in watering down our belief system for the sake of